Constantly shifting through the time-space continuum, Metron's three disciples observe the universe from the Mobius Couch.
This is my heart bleeding before you. This is me down on my knees. These foolish games are tearing me apart. And your thoughtless words are breaking my heart. You're breaking the Mobius Couch, a time-space interdimensional vehicle from which your three hosts oversee the world of comic books and comic book movies. That, of course, is Jules' Foolish Games, the number 2 highest-selling single of 1997. We are, of course, referencing that because tonight we're talking about X-Men 97, Part 2. We did Part 1.
Of course.
Please listen to that if you haven't already. This is Part 2, episodes 6 through 10. I'm Alessandro, and joining me as usual are Patrick and Joe. Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey.
Hey, Al. Hey, Patty. We haven't just been talking.
Hey.
Let's talk about Part 2 of the X-Men 97.
Yeah,
I'm not Patty.
Haven't already been talking for 2 hours before that.
I am Phoenix.
Hello, Phoenix.
I'm going to jump right in there, Patrick. I love right after she does the Phoenix thing, and she's like, the Phoenix Force is gone already. I was like, come on.
I did love at the end. It was very
clean.
It was very clean of just like, oh, I had the Phoenix power, and now it's gone.
And now it's gone.
We're all safe. Okay, great.
Everything's fine.
That worked out. Ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned, this is Part 2. Part 1 is already the podcast. Please listen to that. We're going to just jump right in and talk about episode 6 through 10, because we already gave overall takes in which we discovered that Patrick gave this an A+, Joe gave this an A+, and I gave it a B. Was overall takes.
I'm gonna caveat. So for Part 2, I want to do the little kid from Christmas Story and do A++++++.
Okay, that's bonkers. Part 2, if anything, is worse than part. Whatever.
I disagree.
Okay, so right off the heels of the Genosha massacre, wherein a giant sentinel three-headed mother mole destroyed Genosha and thousands of mutant lives, including Gambit. No, we are now dealing with the aftermath of the attack. Magneto's gone.
We're not. The fucking pacing, I will say, of these 3 episodes 4, 5, and 6 was fucking weird, right? Because episode 4 is about Storm trying to get her powers back, and then we cut to episode 5 with Genosha, and then we cut to episode 6, which is Storm again, and
they did like it's like life. What is it called? Life Death Part 1 is like
Life and Death.
Part 2 is in conjunction with Motendo.
Yeah, that's
but
terrible.
Then Life Death Part 2 is this full episode 6.
It's almost as if this is an overall poorly plotted series of television and really is only.
I just think that like in the grand scheme of things, like I said, those are kind of throwaway episodes. They're not bad, and you need to take a breath every once in a while. But with only 10 episodes, it's not like they had 26 episodes per season like they did back in the day. It's like you don't really need to cram in like a throwaway.
Okay. All right, but let's talk about
Storm getting her powers back. I guess is a
let's talk about Storm's spirit journey. So she had her powers taken away by the white supremacist Human League had these collars that take mutant powers away, and then they synthesized that into like an injection that could permanently take your power away, and that's how she lost her powers. Right? Okay, we already remember that. So she's haunted by it. Also, so you two are bigger nerds than I am. Like, is the bird demon a character in? He's not the Shadow King, right?
It's not the Shadow King.
Yeah,
it's a different character. It is a real character in the comics. I don't think it's a giant bird, though. I think it's like a different type of demon. And I'm not even
sure. Is he just the adversary? What was the name again in the show?
Yeah, the adversary.
I don't remember because I didn't rewatch.
I thought in the show it was pretty.
He's creepy. I mean, it's really creepy. Yeah,
it is. I don't feel like, and granted, some of the episode was Charles Xavier in space or whatever, but like, who gives a shit? No,
I mean, Deathbird.
The second he was on the screen, I was like,
Deathbird is great. I mean, I would watch a show about Deathbird. She is the better sister. She should be ruling the Shi'ar Empire. She's the better sister.
She was trending on Twitter with her Milky Way ghetto comment. She was all over the place. if we don't talk about Charles and the Shi'ar stuff, I could care less.
I do want to talk about. I always liked. Maybe I just like Mohawk characters because I like Storm and a Mohawk, and I like Gladiator.
Oh, that was the one thing about Storm's transformation that I was like, oh, I like.
I wish she would have kept the Mohawk. I like her.
I love the
Mohawk. I like her new costume. I like the black. It's very Madeline Pryor.
It's an old.
I like the black costume. But I wish she would have kept the Mohawk. I like the Mohawk.
Yeah, same.
The Mohawk just didn't look right in this shit. I don't know why they.
You don't look right every day, asshole. She looked great, and it's a good Mohawk.
She's the goddess. You take it back.
No, because the Mohawk, it was like not. It was like a mullet, kind of.
It was a mullet combed over into. Yeah, it was the mullet combed over into a Mohawk, and it looked awesome.
I don't know. When she regrew her hair, I was like, "Oh, it looks so much better."
Again, magical transformation.
Magical transformation.
But very much a shoujo manga, Sailor Moon magical transformation.
Yes.
She gets. Yeah.
And you know what? It's in continuity with the show because in the very first episode of the original series, when she's in the mall, she forms her costume out of lightning.
Yeah, out of the lightning and comes around around her. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys know this, but Storm, technically, she's magic. She's like from a descended line of like the sorceresses.
I used to know so much about Storm.
Why make her simply a mutant when you can make an over convoluted comic backstory that involves?
I feel like
why not?
She is a mutant. I think maybe her ancestors. I think it's like I don't know. I think her magic enhances her mutant abilities, and I feel like the mutant ability is it's kind of like armor, like Hisako.
You can't have two things, Al. You just got to be one thing.
Why not? Yeah. Kind of like how Namor is an immortal and a mutant and an Atlantean and everything.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Why not? Sure. But so Storm goes through her spirit journey. She faces the adversary, who's this creepy bird monster, and she overcomes it and gets her power back. And also Forge is having like a fever, and she heals him of his fever. And so
he got bit. He got bit by the demon.
He got bit by the owl demon.
It was a cold. It was like a head cold. Come on, I mean,
I thought it was cool.
It was fun.
It's a dumb reason MacGuffin to get her to go into a confined space, which Storm is scared of.
Okay, but so even so, like this is still a little bit of a side journey. But going back to like Genosha and kind of the overarching what's going to happen.
What it was? It was like that. It was like the episode to catch everybody. Like so, at the end of the episode, Storm and Forge are like watching the news, and Genosha just happened. So it's like kind of catching them up to like present. But at the same time, you're like, why not just put? Why not just put? Well, I guess you couldn't put the news bulletin part at the end, but like you could have put this episode before Gambit's death.
Yeah,
and it would have just been fine.
Yes. You could have had Jubilee's Motendo part gone, made Storm one episode, and then just had her reaction shot at the end of episode 5.
Yeah.
I did want to stick with Storm because Forge uses a machine to restore her powers, and I felt like the machine worked, and then she had like a
mental block.
A mental block where she couldn't access her powers. Is that what y'all got?
Nope.
That's kind of
how she did this on her own. She did this on her own. She overcame her adversary.
They talk about the lie. They talk about the lie.
You take that back. You take that back. The machine was a failure, and she overcame her inner demons and gave herself her powers back.
Well, no, we're saying the same thing. I think the machine wasn't a failure. It did negate what happened to her with that gun, but then she believed the lie. That's what the adversary is saying. Believe the lie. Like believe that it's better to be human than a mutant. Believe that. And that's why her powers were stymied. And once she was like, they can be the thunder, I'm the lightning, and all that stuff, she kind of tapped back into.
So I'm going to defer to you, Patrick, because I'm going to level with you both. I skipped this episode because when I started it and it was not about Genosha, I just didn't watch it because it seemed like filler and I didn't watch it.
What?
It seemed like filler. And
oh my God.
Storm got her powers back at the end and I'm fine with that. But this episode seemed like filler and I didn't care for it. So
did you skip the episode or did you skim through it and then see her get her powers back?
I fast forwarded to the end. And then went to the next one. But so whatever you two say happened, I agree with. Is what
when she got her powers back, that was like one of the most epic moments of the entire season.
Awesome.
I think I saw that as I was fast forwarding through it. I saw that happen. I did see
so
that.
many fans of this show are going to be like, "Fuck you."
I may be a terrible person, but that's unrelated to this show.
You know what? I appreciate your honesty, Al.
I do understand why you would skip it because the pacing was weird. My only other note about episode 6 was that fucking Vulcan is part of Deathbird's like team.
Yeah, I don't know.
That didn't make sense.
They were throwing,
weird.
especially with the cameos later. They were just throwing characters together. It didn't make a whole lot of sense.
I guess it's
like
plausible
randomly with like Alpha Flight, and I'm like, what?
Well, it's plausible because Cyclops' dad is a space pirate, so it's possible that Vulcan was in space. But yeah, it's
also were those dudes fighting with Gladiator like? Are those actual characters from the comics? Because those looked like Legion of Superheroes to me. It's just a big dude, a guy with sun powers.
Joe, are you being serious?
They were in the show. Yeah, they're like the Royal Guard, bro.
Joe.
Yeah, but
Dark Phoenix Saga. Read the Dark Phoenix Saga.
But they're Legion. They're the Legion of Superheroes, though.
Joe, read the Dark Phoenix Saga.
Joe.
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
Did you not know the Shi'ar Imperial Guard is like based off of the Legion of Superheroes? Like they're one for one.
No, they are completely original. They are a completely original Stan Lee invention.
No,
I didn't know that.
Gladiator is the Superboy Mon-El. No. Oracle is the Saturn Girl. They have the Lightning guy. They have.
You know what it was? Maybe it was just seeing them all together in like a superhero team form.
Yeah.
You're both wrong. They're not based on the Legion. Stan Lee invented these characters from his genius.
Patty, thanks for informing me. I didn't know. You know, sometimes as much as you know about comics, you can still learn some new stuff.
One of the main antagonists of the Shi'ar Guard is this group of 5 villains, and they are basically the Fatal Five.
Yeah.
I honestly, in fairness, I haven't read a lot of anything to do with the Shi'ar.
Yeah. Why would you? Why would you want
like
to?
Ever?
You wouldn't really.
Yeah.
But I get it. I mean, they're both like sci-fi space teams, so why not just say like, well, let's just kind of do Legion, and have it be the Shi'ar Imperial Guard.
I was like, what's going on here?
I did like Gladiator. Even in the original show, I thought Gladiator was awesome because he's basically a Superman with a mohawk. And
he's Superman. Awesome. Yeah. Superboy, apparently, because it's the Legion.
As long as he's got his self-esteem up, if he's feeling bad about himself, he's just not as strong. But
he's also a whiny bitch.
Have you read the Claremont Dark Phoenix saga, by the way?
No,
I mean, I did a million years ago.
So I recommend it because it's obviously very dated because it's from the early 80s, and I'm not going to pretend like it holds up or anything, but it's still pretty good regardless. And B, the fight with the Shi'ar Imperial Guard is really pretty interesting. Like how all the different X-Men use their powers against different Royal Guards people is really done pretty well. So I kind of recommend that.
I have to give that a read.
Yeah,
I didn't realize. I think I read the Phoenix Saga, and I didn't realize that when Nightcrawler is in shadows, he's legitimately invisible. I didn't know that. Like I thought he just blended in, but he turns invisible if he's in shadow. Which
he's one of he has a lot of.
I don't know if it's like invisible. I think he just becomes like
it's invisible, as at least in the Phoenix Saga, like because he doesn't even know it's his power. Like some gnomes find him or something on Muir Island, and like half his body is like invisible, and they pull him out of the shadow, and they can see him.
That tracks. That makes sense. That tracks.
In case you didn't know that about that.
Okay.
Speaking of Nightcrawler, episode 7, Kurt's fucking eulogy of Gambit. God damn.
Speaking of Nightcrawler, episode 7, it took Gambit's death, but he got an intro sequence in the beginning, and I was like,
yes. Oh yeah. So one thing we didn't mention at all in part 1. Every episode has a different intro sequence.
Yeah, I really liked that. It was fun. It was a weird. It was a fun little. Well, first of all, any fan of this show is never going to skip that intro, and they're not going to pay attention to that button.
Yeah. Well, the opening theme is classic. Like we all. I mean,
it's so good. Classic. I'll listen to it 1,000 times. But the fact that they changed the animation a lot, like Magneto, like episode 2 had Magneto in it instead. None of them had Professor X in it until like later on when he is actually back on Earth.
The cast is different.
So many cool
and also
little
the scenes.
Like Bishop's there for the first few, but when he leaves, he's not now in the intro. Like there's little things like that. I was like, that was really fucking cool.
Also, a really tiny thing in the first 3 episodes, Jean Grey has her hair down, and then after it's revealed that's Madeline, the next episode she has it up in a ponytail.
Yeah. All sorts of little Easter eggs. Also, this goes back to the original series, but that final shot of the people running from Sentinels and the two teams coming together, the people running from Sentinels are all Prime Sentinels in the later. Like there's bystanders who become Prime Sentinels in the.
Yes,
there's lots of little Easter eggs in the opening.
I love a good Easter egg.
Yeah, but we didn't mention it in the first episode.
Did you ever watch the cartoon Pride of the X-Men, like before this?
Yes, I rented it from Blockbuster.
Okay, so like this, even with like they go by the end when everything's decimated and they don't have any power or anything, like not powers, mutant powers. I mean like electricity. There's Magneto and everything. They wear their old costumes, like, they put all their old costumes on and they go up to Asteroid M. That's straight out of Pride of the X-Men. Like, and Nightcrawler even being on the team, period, is like Pride of the X-Men. Like, it was very like, I was like, are they like purposefully shifting? Or is this just like an homage to like Pride of the X-Men? But it kind of goes along with Gambit's death in terms of like, let's get them away from that 90s thing and like do something different with the team. And I was like, interesting. Yeah. But like the brown costume Wolverine, the Cyclops with the dome cap instead of open, all the stuff like, it's like slowly, like there's little hints as it's going on, and it just keeps moving in that direction. I thought, like Storm's costume from the previous episode, same thing. That's her old costume.
But that was pretty cool. Without going like episode by episode, we kind of like, as a whole, learn a lot. So we learn about this Bastion character who's employed Sinister. It turns out that Sinister's been working for this Bastion person who has like a fake Louisiana Main Street as his like hometown is where his headquarters is. I really care about him, but he's a mutant / sentinel from the future that Nimrod sent back in time to be evil.
He's a mutant that can talk to machines, or he has the power.
He's not really, but he's like a mutant, but he's really a sentinel, right? Isn't he like a sentinel that Nimrod sent back?
I don't know if he's a mutant or because they say that like a piece of Nimrod.
He has the power to talk to the machines. I'm sorry.
But it's Nimrod sent part of himself back in time.
Yeah.
Right? Is the origin of this character.
Yes. I think his mutation is based on the fact that a piece of Nimrod went back through time for some reason and went into his father's ear. And then Bastion was born.
It went into his sperm. I mean, let's be honest.
Well,
so Nimrod basically ear fucked his dad, who then traditionally fucked the mom, and Nimrod impregnated her, and Bastion is a Nimrod child, so he can speak to technology and sentinels, and he creates
I guess
human sentinel hybrids is his whole thing. And he's employing Sinister because anytime like genetics and creepy stuff is involved, little Miss Sinister is there for the party. Hey, you need my help?
He's got to be there.
Sinister he's not quite Krakoa Sinister, but he's a pretty messy queen in this.
He gets there though. He's mostly scary 90s Sinister, and then at the end when Jean removes all of his and he turns Sinister. The first thing he's freaked out about is what he looks like. He doesn't really care about like his powers or anything. That's the first thing. He's like, what do I look like? So I thought that was interesting.
He's kind of a blend of the 90s Sinister and the Krakoa just messy queen Sinister. But so Sinister's working with Bastion, and then we find out that actually the technovirus Cable is infected with is the Prime Sentinel technology, sort of. It gets confusing. Also,
organic virus.
Plot twist: Magneto isn't dead. He's in black underwear, crucified, and alive
on an X.
Looks great.
Yeah.
Well, Bastion had like a weird vibe to him. His intro is it kind of reminded me of Reservoir Dogs when Michael Madsen's like cutting up that guy's face, what I'm talking about? Yeah. But also kind of like a Christopher Nolan Bane type, like the way he would talk. He was like a blend of just quirky, weird supervillains.
Well, going back to the animation looking like Archer, I don't know if maybe it's the same voice actor, but Bastion sounds like an Archer series voice.
100%. I think that's why it was so unsettling, because you're waiting for it to be like comedic, but the things he was doing
get this Archer connection that you guys are getting.
Yeah,
like,
there's
really
he doesn't do like any comedy at all. Yeah.
When he's shaving Magneto, I'm like, this is the most unsettling shit ever.
I think it's honestly, I need to look this up. I think it might be the same voice actor who does Barry, the evil cyborg in Archer.
Well, I was interesting because it kind of.
I need to look it up.
Kind of sounded like the dude that plays Aquaman's brother in the movies to me, but I didn't check, so I have no idea.
Holy
also,
shit.
that guy's kind of
never mind. It's Theo James voices Bastion.
Yeah.
He's
my
Gentleman and White Lotus.
Who was it?
I had no idea.
Theo James. He's in the Gentleman Show and was in White Lotus.
Oh,
he was like
interesting.
A British actor who. Okay.
Yeah,
he sounds like Evil Barry from.
Yeah.
Sounds like Evil Barry. So Rogue Rampage. Captain America.
Fucking loved episode 7. Rogue losing her shit, and people were bitching about like how she became kind of a villain, and I'm like, this lady just lost.
And what? She didn't become a villain at all.
That's what I'm like.
She murders a dude at the end, but the guy had just murdered millions of mutants.
A war criminal. He's even before Genosha.
Joe. First of all, murder is strong. She does the Batman 89. I'm gonna let you fall. I'm just going to let you fall. Murder. Now, is that murder or is that I'm just going to let you fall?
Well, because he does try to jump and she catches him, and then she's like, "Okay, I
also, the dude's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I guess I
that the
completely
dude's a piece
agree.
of shit.
But she killed him.
People were pissed about it because they were like, "This is Colossus's storyline or whatever," and I'm like, I don't really give a shit. She saw the two loves of her life. They did that
in the old show. They would take comic arcs and
who cares? It's fine.
Twist it for a different character or whatever. They did that all the time.
Also,
or they would condense it. Or
also, both
whatever.
The man she loved and the man she reverse cucked him for, both died. So she's mad.
And on top of that, she saw like a genocide happen before her eyes.
Yes.
And then
I think it was less about that. I think it was more about Gambit.
Yeah, but even if you remove Magneto and Gambit from the situation, her actions are still justified, is what I'm saying.
Kurt
everything
specifically
just
says that it's not just Gambit and Magneto. Because Kurt was the only other
conjecture, Patrick. That's conjecture.
Whatever.
I know Rogue.
Are you doubting
way more?
Kurt?
Look, Rogue and I go back. I know her better than Kurt, and it was about Magneto.
Bullshit.
And Gambit.
Bullshit.
But she does let the man die. She does.
I mean, she was Mystique raised her. Like, she was indoctrinated at an early age to not like humans, and then Xavier.
Yeah. Also, speaking of an early age, she apparently grew up in like Aztec ruins that Magneto was holed up in, or something. That was interesting. Okay, I didn't know. All right, I didn't know about that, but okay.
I like the cameos throughout the show with like Captain America and like. It was fun to and briefly at the end, like Spider-Man and Daredevil and stuff, like the hints of like we could do this with the other shows from your childhood too. I did also like what they're doing, but at the same time, it was cool to be like, hey, a big thing is happening. Let's recognize the fact that other heroes are at least existing, kind of thing.
I did also like when the president ordered the missile strike on Asteroid M, how Captain America said we shouldn't do this. We should let the X-Men have a chance. Like I thought that spoke well of Captain America, that he took the mutant side. Even though the mutants clowned him, Rogue clowned him. She straight up clowned that boy. She took his shield and was like, go fetch it 8 miles from here.
It was funny because when he initially throws it to like, I don't know, stop her or something, or just be like, I'm here. She picks it up and just, instead of just giving it back to him, she's just holding it for a while. And you're just like, this is interesting. I wonder where this goes. And like, she never, and he even like puts his hands on it. And she's like, oh, well, your hands are tied. No thanks, and like takes it back from him, kind of thing.
And also, we should probably say like, so she's on a mission to find the original, like Bolivar Trask and Haggard. What's the other guy's name? But like the two founders of the Sentinel program. And she goes, there's even a part where they're like, oh, this bunker's Hulk proof, and she crashes through it or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is another thing of, in terms of power. So is she Superman or not? Because I feel like if she was Superman, she could just have been doing more from the beginning. But she's only Superman in this episode when she can just crush everything. I don't It's a little inconsistent.
I think it's implied that when he said it's Hulk proof, like it was built to contain the Hulk, and she
she even says that when she busts it. She's like, it's easier to break into prison than out, or something.
I still think
she didn't go through the cell; she pushed the cell down through the bunker.
I still think my point stands that her power use is a little inconsistent. In this episode, she is basically Superman, and in other episodes, it's like, well, I can't defeat a Sentinel Prime on my own.
Right? Yeah,
it's a little bit inconsistent.
I did like how she called Captain America America's top cop.
Yes, and he does. Look, in all honesty, he has real cop energy.
Yes,
he does. Yeah. He does.
These scenes that you're showing, I guess if you're not watching on YouTube, you don't know, but another new X-Men reference, Emma Frost's secondary diamond mutation.
Oh, yeah.
From the rubble
so they
of
think they
Genosha
find Madeline. Like Jean and Cyclops are searching through the rubble of Genosha, specifically pretty much to find Madeline if they can. And they find a telepath and they're all like, oh my gosh, we found a telepath. It might be Madeline. You know, like they're all excited. And like it turns out to be Emma. And
it'd be funny if Cyclops was like, "Oh no, this is the other telepath.
This is the other,
not Madeline, but another one that I cheated on you with."
It's the other one I cheated on you with. Yeah. We also have a mental bond. Yeah.
That was our thing, Scott.
I have it with 2 others.
I liked how when they found Emma, she just says, "I've always done well under pressure."
Yeah. And look, it's great wordplay because we know that diamonds are created by pressure.
Exactly. I think that's why
great wordplay.
Yeah. So the team they both kind of convene on is it Trask? Is he the Sentinel of the first one?
Gyrick
is Trask is like the military guy, and Gyrick is the actual
Bastion kills him, right?
Scientist, I think, right?
Gyrick is super into like taxidermy butterflies, apparently, which I thought was an interesting wrinkle to his personality. He's like,
so did either of you see Love Lies Bleeding?
No.
Mm-mm.
So it's kind of like a lesbian erotic thriller about a bodybuilding woman and a gym owner who get into a relationship, and just anyway. The reason I bring this up is Ed Harris plays the bad guy.
Oh wait, who's in that? Is it Kristen
Stewart and the bodybuilding woman.
I heard of it. I haven't watched it.
I forgot the actress who plays the bodybuilder. She's in great shape. I'm going to stop myself. I'm going to stop myself because otherwise we have to edit it out anyway. I'm not going to go there. She looks great. She looks great in that movie. But anyway, the reason I bring this up is Ed Harris plays the bad guy, and Ed Harris lives in a New Mexico, like Mexican hacienda style mansion where he has taxidermy insects, and he does that. And Gyrick kind of reminded me of that because he's in Mexico in like a hacienda roll up and has taxidermy butterflies. He's like the same character as Ed Harris is in Love Lies Bleeding. And I thought that was interesting.
It was an interesting quirk they put into his personality that's what he'd be doing was like pinning butterfly wings down.
Yeah. He's like, I got some time on my hands.
The other thing too is he's doing it to opera arias. Right.
I like to pin
that's classic
butterflies.
Villain behavior is you listen to classical music because obviously no good person would listen to operas or classical music. Only a villain would. And he does taxidermy.
What do you think about I liked the Bastion Prime Sentinel story arc. That was good.
I didn't really care for it.
I thought it was very, I liked it. I thought it was very,
whatever.
Again, I thought they pulled from Krakoa how it was kind of like the artificial intelligence evolution versus
Nimrod is Krakoan age.
So. Yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of that in there. Yeah. So
I just didn't like Bastion. You know, he's what's the word? He's an albino. He's a pink-skinned albino. I don't like that. I don't like that. Why are you laughing? That's literally what he is. Why are you laughing?
Just gonna leave that there for a minute.
That's literally what he is.
I know. It's very factual.
I did like Rogue once again stealing Gyrick's memories by touch because Gyrick's
that was cool. Yeah.
Your telepath won't be able to get I have psi blockers, and she's like, that's not what we're doing here.
Yeah, that's not what we're doing. But
and I mean the Sentinel Prime reveal was pretty cool. How we talked about how Rogue lets Trask that she lets go, or Gyrick.
She lets Trask.
No, Trask. It's Trask.
Wait, Trask falls? Gyrick's the one. Oh god damn it.
Yeah, Trask is a sign. So she lets him fall. And then he basically just floats back up in the sky as a Sentinel Prime, and it turns out that like he's even stronger than a normal Sentinel, and the team is pressured.
And I thought it was interesting when she drops him. Wolverine says that he had it coming. Morph says, "Is this who we are now?" Nightcrawler says, "Rogue, what have you done?" And Cyclops doesn't say anything, which
He's
I thought
okay
was
with
interesting.
it. He's okay with it.
Yeah, I'm right.
He's okay with it.
He's like, millions of us just died.
Yeah.
I mean,
Cyclops... this is post the conversation where he talked to President Kelly and he's like, "Can you help us here?" And he's like, "Nah."
I think Cyclops saw that and kind of just said like, "No, but
yeah,
she's still on my team. That's all he cares about. It's my team."
Yeah.
Well, so, like right after his conversation with President Kelly, Cyclops basically says, "Well, Jean goes, no one could have foreseen this coming," and Cyclops was like, "Magneto did. Magneto's been warning about this for years."
Well, this I want to say like this whole back half of the series is very much a hashtag Magneto was right.
Yes, 100%.
Oh yeah. Well, also they were saying that the UN lady, what's her name? Anyway. She says it later on. She's like, Magneto was right. They were saying it when they landed in Genosha. There were signs that said Magneto
the whole back
is right.
half of the season is hashtag Magneto was right. And it's culminated by, when Magneto, when he breaks free of his underwear crucifix and gets free again, and this is again, going back to my earlier complaint of like, is he bad? Is he good? Is he bad? Is he good? He turns heel yet again, and he puts on his real costume. He takes Asteroid M. And he offers the X-Men, like, if you want, you can just join me because I was right. So feel free to join me.
What's Bastion doing with Magneto on that gurney?
I mean, I think anyone is free to
the
draw
speedos get any smaller.
I think everyone
and then
is
he's
free
shaving
to draw
him.
their
It's
own
weird.
conclusion.
There's a lot of weird.
So the question I have, Patrick,
a lot of sexual tension there.
Patrick, you're dating a fitness instructor, so you probably know more about it. You're married to a fitness instructor. Let me rephrase that. So you maybe know more about this. We never see Magneto lift a weight in 10 episodes. Like, when does he work out?
He's,
dude's jacked.
Al, those weird like muscle pumping, like they have little pads and it's like
the little like ab.
Yeah, he's just got electromagnetic pulses, just like shaking his abs.
Yeah. So he does magnetic. He does this magnetic pulses on his biceps
just all day. Magnetic pulses, just all day.
Because honestly, we can be honest. He's in his mid-50s minimum, right? He's quite aged, right? Dude's jacked. Like, he is in shape.
That's another thing. The timeline with Magneto being a Holocaust survivor and like modern day just gets further and further away.
It gets more implausible that he's a jacked.
Like with Captain America, you'd be like, well, he was frozen for longer. So like it'll always make sense. But with Magneto, you're just like, this is getting. How old is he?
Even with Professor X, I mean, with both X and Magneto, was young
at that time too. Yeah,
you have to kind of just suspend disbelief and say like, all right, they're in their mid-50s, and that's just it. Okay.
Yeah. Well, they keep like dying and being reborn in younger bodies is how they're getting around it.
Yeah. Well, but in X-Men 97, they don't really reference.
No, not yeah. No, I'm in the comics, but yeah.
But back to the point I was making. So when he's free, he offers the X-Men like, come join me, and some of them do join him. And again, I think it points to like the whole theme of the second half of the series is really like Magneto is kind of right.
I agree with you. It makes complete sense.
Yeah. Kind of was.
The last 3 episodes.
But that's why I thought the ending, I thought like the plotting was just messy with like Bastion is bad and we have to deal with him, but then also Magneto's heel again. We have to stop him. And it just felt a little scattershot.
I don't know. After Genosha and what happened and Magneto survives, however he survives, and he's captured by Bastion, the second that UN lady lets him out, like, of course he's gonna go shut down the world.
No, I get that, but I just mean in terms of the show's narrative, it just seemed a little messy and like overstuffed with like.
It didn't make sense to me to.
Why are we doing Asteroid M again? Why is he back on Asteroid M? Like, why is that?
Because he's because he's been proven right, and he's back to his old position of this is how we should do this.
I just thought it was weird that they split the team up into 2 teams. Like, go after Bastion.
X-Men Blue, X-Men Gold. That's classic X-Men.
Also, I don't know if you've ever played Dungeons and Dragons, but the party will always split. Given any opportunity, they will split up and make it harder for the DM to manage the game. So I think it's just they're going to split.
I don't know. I feel like they should have gone after Bastion, ended that, and then gone and just talked to Magneto.
I do like how when they were splitting teams and Cyclops looked at Wolverine and he's just like, I'm going to send you to the person who can control metal. Because I think he knows Wolverine made out with Jean and he's not happy about that. And he's like, I'm going to send you to the guy who can control metal. Fuck you. You go fight that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. He's like, you're coming with me because I don't want you with Jean's team. Because inevitably I'm going to die and you guys are going to make out.
I think it was intentional of you can go fight the metal controlling guy and have fun with it.
And what happens to him?
Well, I do want to say, all right, so I want to say as much shit as we talked about Wolverine, I did appreciate as like in that scene of they're fighting Magneto and Professor X is saying, oh, Magnus, listen to me. Like we can find a solution. Wolverine just said, fuck all of this, stab. I'm just going to I appreciated Wolverine.
He went to Asteroid M with one mission in mind. Like he was like, I'm going to listen to Cyclops, but this is what I'm here for.
Well, I just mean like as much shit as we talked about Wolverine, I admired. He's just like, guys, you know what? Like, fuck all of this. Like, let's just stop all of this and stab. Like, I'm I'm just going to go to the end. Of all of this. And
another note of when I love Wolverine, I think every time the best Wolverine scenes is when he's just a glorified security guard for the X-Men mansion. Like every time they invade the home and he's like ripping through people, I'm like, I love every second of that. Like an X2, I guess the movie.
Do you mean X2 : X-Men United?
No, I mean X2. Just that's it.
No, it was X2 : X-Men United was the full title of it. You mean Bryan Singer's X2 : X-Men United?
Isn't that X-Men 3?
Nope. I will bet you any amount of money. X2 is X-Men United.
Okay. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Anyway, the point is, in X2, when he like rips through all those dudes, I love it. When the Nightcrawler fight, the team up fight with Nightcrawler and him in the mansion is fucking spectacular. I was like, I just fucking love Wolverine just defending the mansion. I think it's like my favorite Wolverine ever. Like that's basically the when and only when do I love Wolverine kind of thing.
But I think it goes back to the original show and the movie. Is I do think they tend to use Wolverine as sort of the foster father for the orphaned audience stand-in new person, whether it's Rogue in the film or Jubilee in the original. So I do think we've just been accustomed to Wolverine kind of working that way as sort of the grizzled, reluctant father figure.
Yeah, and I think he works. I think it works there. You know,
I think it works when he just stabs Magneto because he's like, we just shouldn't talk to this guy. Let's just stab him.
Why are we doing this?
I think that's the best Wolverine we have. Is that
Except Cyclops and Professor X were like, we need him to restart the world, dummy.
Right?
I don't. Yeah. Whatever. I agree with. I just agree. First of all. Restart the world. The world we have is like rent and home prices are out of control. Rampant stock market speculation, like based on non-real values. If anything, Magneto did us a favor.
Did he demagnetize the? Was it floating off?
He turned off electronics. He basically I think he reverse magnetized the Earth's poles and like undid electricity.
There would be cataclysms.
We have cataclysms now, bud. State Farm won't insure homes in California because we are already dealing with too many cataclysms that we are equipped to deal with. Open your eyes, bro. It's a reality. It ain't sci-fi. It's the world we live in.
Nightcrawler Wolverine fight. There's this really awesome scene where Wolverine stabs one of the Prime Sentinels, and Nightcrawler's like, "We need to get them away from Rogue," and he like teleports with Wolverine connected to the dude, and the warping that he goes and like gets sucked in. I was like, that was fucking phenomenal.
That whole fight scene is amazing. When Wolverine's
the fight scene's amazing in general.
When Wolverine's got claws out and he's like, I've got 6
and
reasons
Nightcrawler's
why
got 3 swords, one with his tail, and you're just
and
like,
he goes, and I've got 3.
fantastic.
You mean 9 reasons? Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, and the teleportation with like Wolverine attached to it showing like what Kurt does, where he like blends, like warps around thing, and I was like, that was fucking badass.
Also,
like,
when they're in the room fighting,
so good.
The camera does kind of like a faux, live action tracking shot of kind of like moving around the
circle.
It looked really cool. That was a sweet
fight. And the Nightcrawler's teleportation through that fight, almost in any fight really, but like through that specific fight was fucking awesome as fuck.
Well, there was so many good things where he teleports them like out and in the sky. You all saw First Class, right? That movie.
Yeah.
So one thing that they don't do a lot, but like that movie I thought was really cool, when Azazel basically just teleports people into the sky and just drops them to die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I thought it was kind of an interesting use of like Nightcrawler's teleporter powers. Mm-hmm. Of just kind of like, well, I'm just going to teleport you a mile into the air and you can just die.
Again, X2, when Nightcrawler is a bad guy or whatever, and he attacks the White House. Fucking awesome. It's one of the best scenes ever. Anyway, Nightcrawler is awesome. Let's just move on.
So we've only really talked about like the team in Magneto. The other team goes to fight Bastion and Sinister on yet another tropical island, which is their, I just, wherever that was, they go fight them there. It's the Sentinel base where Bastion is.
Yeah.
And then Bastion turns into like an Archangel Sentinel robot because he can do that. And then they fight Sinister. And
he gets Cable's arm, so he has the techno-organic virus portion of him from the future or so. I don't know. It's weird. He takes his arm and it like, I don't know, Studio Ghibli, Princess Mononoke style worms all around him, and
Sinister is kind of having his way with like Cable and Jean Grey, etc. And then, like Patrick mentioned, the Phoenix kind of pantses him and is like, "I'm going to extract all the mutant DNA that you've taken," and so he just becomes like a withered old human man.
Well, let's back up with the Jean fighting Sinister, the way they're moving and sliding around, and then when she starts throwing the bowling balls and she throws one right into his face. Was all phenomenal. And then when Cable, you never see Cable use his telekinesis. So this is like the first time I think I've ever seen the guy use his telekinesis fighting Jean. That was pretty incredible.
I love that scene because she pulls Cyclops into the moment.
Yeah.
Just so she can say goodbye, basically, because she thinks she's about to die. And she's like, I'm not going to hurt Nathan. So that's over. I'm just going to hold him back, but I can't hold him back forever kind of thing. And I was like, I fucking so he's there and he's like, Nathan, Jean, and then, but then she like dies and he's back on, Asteroid M.
But that's the thing too, is in the original show.
And he cries out. It was amazing.
I feel like the original show was a lot of Jean like, oh, let me lift a chair.
Yeah.
And then she gets blasted and she's just like on the ground with her butt towards camera going like, oh, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, this show did a really good job of displaying their powers the way we all know them to be from the comics. Like they weren't
in the new series though, she uses her powers substantially,
phenomenally,
and she's awesome. Like
even Madeline,
badass. Yeah, she's incredible. But then the Phoenix,
Madeline, Jean, they're the same person, Patty.
Same person.
Yeah. Well, I gotta say, like Cyclops, I'm a little bit more of a Madeline man.
I enjoyed her character.
She's the mother of his child,
But as usual, the Phoenix Deus Ex Machina kind of saves Jean and ruins Sinister. But that's the scene that Patrick alluded to earlier, where he just kind of gets stripped of his powers and is just a human man and looks at and he's just like, "Am I ugly?" And it's like, "Well, yeah, Queen, you're ugly."
She's like, "Yeah, you're ugly."
Because Sinister's, I don't know. I guess if listeners aren't really like into the backstory, Sinister originally was just a 19th century British man who just started gene splicing mutant powers. He was into
Jack
himself.
The Ripper, right?
I think he was literally Jack the Ripper, right? In the origin. And he spliced like mutant powers into himself to give himself like immortality, immortal youth, beam powers, apparently shadow teleport powers, and just whatever.
He would chop up, genetically steal the powers of mutants.
And in the Krakoan age, you also find out he had like millions of clones, and like one of them was like evil and kind of won out the Clone Wars.
I hope that is Sinister next season. I want Krakoan age Sinister. I think it would be a phenomenal direction for them to go.
Oh, I also loved when Jean when Sinister's like, only I know when you and Madeline were switched, and then Madeline says it doesn't matter, or Jean says it doesn't matter, Madeline fights with me today, I was like, oh, yes, go girl.
Solidarity. I like that solidarity.
Yeah.
So then,
also,
they defeat.
Quick question though. So when they're like making game plans, Cyclops is like, "We're gonna go to Muir Island," and then he goes, "Nightcrawler is going to teleport everyone there." Was he joking? What was that?
I don't know if he was joking because Nightcrawler classically can't teleport that far,
right?
Like,
or that many people.
I don't know if that was real. I don't know what.
I don't know. It was a weird. I'm not sure. Yeah, it was weird. I don't know if it was tongue in cheek or what was the.
Yeah, I think because there's no other explanation of how they got there though. So that's the part where I'm like, did he actually do that? By the way, I'm gonna put this up for YouTube, and it's really just for me. But there's this shot of the hangar, and there's a Wolverine motorcycle. There's this old toy. It was just like an Easter egg, but there's this old toy where
I think I had that toy.
Wolverine's motorcycle had claws on it, but it also had like his human face would flip around on the front of it for some fucking reason. It made no sense. It was the most insane toy motorcycle thing on the planet, and for some fucking reason they thought, let's put it in the room where Cable's at and all the old costumes are. And I was like, I fucking love that was just randomly tucked into the show. Because it was so insane. I was like, what the fuck? The motorcycles there? The Wolverine motorcycle.
Why not put it in the hangar?
Yeah, I thought it was great.
So the gold team or the blue, whichever team defeats Sinister. But then Bastion ends up in space, right?
Bastion, he wins down there. So basically he's like, oh,
and then he
you think they're going to do anything? I'm going to go fuck them up too.
Yeah.
And he like flies up into space to go.
So he flies to there. At the same time, the president orders a missile strike. And at the same time,
he can't wait any longer, Al.
He can't. I mean,
he's got constituents to answer to.
He's got to, Dark 30. He's got to do it.
And he's not listening to Captain America's advice.
And in the meantime, Professor X has taken over Magnus's mind and has reversed the magnet field on Earth.
Well, has he? Because I feel like he starts to, Cyclops shoots him, which I thought was pretty badass.
Well, that does happen, but then he does it later again, right?
There was just that a little bit of like, well, one, Cyclops, like, you didn't leave me the mansion and the team, what the fuck, kind of thing. But also just like, he's like, yeah, you're back and everything.
The blue team needed more time.
You're going a step too far too. He is like, don't take over his mind. That's fucked up. Like, we need to talk to him, kind of thing. Like, I feel like Xavier was very quick to be like, you leave me no choice, Magnus. And
Xavier's clearly an idiot. Like, Xavier is not presented as a heroic good figure in this. He is a mess. He doesn't know what he's doing. He is
piece of shit.
So talking about
and also going back to yet another comic arc that gets stuffed into this.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say.
Gets stabbed by Wolverine. He extracts the adamantium from.
Yeah, and that's a big story arc in the comics. And I'm like, well, so clearly they're setting Wolverine up to have like an arc in season 2, or deal with that or whatever. But I was like, wow, they're really jamming some shit in here. But like, again, going back to Cyclops being like, "You're coming with me, Wolverine," was one, I feel like Cyclops is secretly like, yeah, we both know you're gonna stab Magneto and kill him if it comes to it. Like I need the one up there that's willing to do the dirty work that I won't do when it comes down to it. Which I like, aside from the I don't want you with Jean thing, which is kind of a joke, but also sort of serious.
I don't think it's a joke. I think he just said you are not going to be on Jean's team.
Be done when they're up there. But also, of course, it results in this. But also, again, I was kind of shocked that they added that bit of this story into what was happening. It was kind of like, wow, okay, we're going there.
And there is also, Cyclops is another cool moment when Bastion gets back up to space and then they're fighting in there as the missiles are on their way. Cyclops has a really cool fight with Bastion. We just kind of like blasts him all around and then does like a major blast to knock him back. It's kind of a cool moment.
I think I have a shot of that. Yes.
And then at the end, so another question: how did you feel? So at the end, they defeat Bastion, and then the missiles hit Asteroid M, and it's heading towards Earth, and they have to find a way to kind of not have it crash, right? Like that's not the overall setup. But at the end, as they're about to kill Bastion, Cyclops says no.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. And asks Bastion to join them because he says, look, just like us, you're different. Why don't you join our team? How did you feel? Are you okay with that? Did you feel it's a little too lenient towards?
I'm not okay with it. I'm not okay with it. And if I was Rogue, I would have been like, no. What?
I don't think, was he literally saying like join our team, or was he saying like,
I think he was offering like a peace treaty. I'm like, this dude killed thousands of
I don't know if he was saying join our literal X-Men team, but he was saying like, just come to our side. We are like you. We are ostracized. We are different. It's okay. Just come over to our side.
I'm not saying Rogue wouldn't have reacted badly like Patrick was saying, and I'm not saying it was maybe the decision he should have made, but I understand where he was coming from and what the writers were trying to do there. Like they were trying to make him the bigger man, quote unquote. And I'm like, and I as a Cyclops fan really appreciated that. But like in reality, would that have made sense, or should he have done that? Probably not. But like,
well, so I agree
like
with
that he took a beat and went, no, this is not what we should be. This isn't what we're meant to do. Like this is.
Well, I agree with Joe. I actually kind of liked it in terms of the show because the whole conflict of the show from 1 to 10 was the Magneto Xavier dichotomy of like, do we coexist? Do we destroy? Do we dominate? Do we work together? What's the answer? Right. Like, and there's no answer. Like Magneto's right, but then Magneto's evil and Charles is like, who's right? The X-Men are operating under these like dueling dichotomies and like, what do we do? What example do we set? And I did kind of appreciate that Cyclops as at this point, sort of a child of both Magnus and Xavier at this point, because he's worked with both mentors and he's expressed agreement with both mentors. Like we mentioned, Trask dying, he was kind of like, nah, I don't know, maybe okay, right? So he kind of, and I think this was like a good synthesis of like, he just at the end of all of this, funnel all of it down, Cyclops came down to more of the Xavier school of we need to open the possibility and open ourselves to just accepting all differences and all mutants and all genetic whatever. And like offer that to Bastion. I thought it was an interesting short. Now,
listeners.
Patrick, time out. I'm not saying I agree with Cyclops' decision, but I'm saying I think it was interesting narratively that he fell on that kind of his decisioning came down to that point of, you know what? At some point, someone has to stop pulling the trigger and we have to just say, like, let's try to find a solution that isn't killing each other.
Yeah.
And I thought it was interesting narratively that's the side he fell on.
And based on that ultimate like boiling point of like, this is where Magneto is when this is all shaking out and his stance on it. And this is where like Xavier has always been, but like where's it's between Eric and Cyclops, it's like, I don't know, Xavier should have given him the school,
Yeah. I think it was the wrong character to do that with.
Oh, really?
Okay. Interesting.
The crimes,
I can see that.
crimes and the plotting and the years he took to achieve what he did, to offer an olive branch to that man, was ridiculous to me.
It's also contrary, sort of, to basically where Cyclops is now in the comics. Is sort of contrary to this Cyclops next month.
This idealistic Cyclops,
Going back to like the whole Phoenixes versus Avenger, like way back to now, Cyclops has kind of veered more towards the Magneto absolutionist way, ethos. So it's kind of contrary to the comic Cyclops, what the show Cyclops did at the end of it. So that's a valid point. I just thought it was interesting narratively that he just fell back on like, at some point we've got to stop smashing asteroids into people and just like figure out a way that isn't everybody dying.
I don't know, Patty. I don't know. I appreciated it for some reason.
I get that they're the good guys, and that's
Cyclops to me, the idealistic Cyclops.
Yeah, I prefer modern day Cyclops, who's like, I'm protecting mutants.
I do. Really
know, but so the thing is, Patrick, I agree with you. I do prefer that, but I also I don't mind the narrative decision in this context, but I do I completely agree with you. I would have killed the albino fuck, and B, I think I prefer the Cyclops, who is more of the Magneto mutants are the way Cyclops. And it's a more interesting character.
Yeah, I get why they.
But I get what the show is trying to do. Yeah, I don't mind.
I get what they're trying to do. It was just I felt like the guy literally just like. How many days had it been since Genosha? Like a week?
Not even a week. It's been less than a calendar week since Genosha.
Yeah, but
you know what it is? I want Cyclops to maybe get to that version of the modern character in the show, but like he's not there yet, I guess. And I think that's and I think that was like representative of who he is in the show currently. But like, do I want him to be more the modern Cyclops like in the later seasons of hopefully the show keeps going.
But I also I guess
I'd want him to get there, but I completely get why he's
one point I'll make one point I'll make in support of kind of Patrick's viewpoint is what actually is going to happen here. So Bastion caused the death of thousands of mutants, genetically and technically altered thousands of humans irrevocably into killing
against their
machines.
will for the most part. I mean, they signed up, I guess, technically, but they didn't know
like in what universe does he not face any legal repercussion for the
what it is? I feel like it's so sometimes Cyclops does and says things to belay his own conscience about it. And I like it's almost like by offering the olive branch and then it continues, he could then kill him and feel justified in it. But like, and I feel like sometimes I feel like he has a tendency to say things like that to almost like relieve himself late. Like, this is for you, future Cyclops. You won't have burdened with guilt.
I understand
over murdering somebody.
I just meant to make the point. Like, there's no universe where Bastion is just like, oh, we're all cool now, right? Like, I mean,
speaking of Storm not having a cool moment in the last episode, basically, like Jubilee had a really cool moment. Like, she kind of like realized the powers that future Jubilee had in the video game.
Because she fought Loser Sunspot? No thanks.
No, she fought Bastion and fucking kicked his ass a little bit. It was awesome. Well, it was cool.
A little bit. I mean, a little bit.
I mean, it's Jubilee. You're not asking a whole lot. I'm just saying, like, it was cool that she used the moves that she saw future her make in the video game or whatever. True. And then there was some cool little beats with Jubilee.
But also, it's kind of like in the first episode how we mentioned how everybody had a cool moment. Like the ending fight scene was pretty much everybody had a moment. Like everyone got their,
But Jubilee's moment was kind of out of nowhere. She does that cool move where she like airbend spins and then she puts her hand on his face and just full blast him in the face. It was pretty cool. It was actually the only cool Jubilee moment I think I've seen. And
she hasn't had many.
I agree, but at the same time, in the old show, she was such an annoying side character that was just kind of in the way a lot.
Yeah,
and I feel like they really used her in a good way in the show. Like, she wasn't like highlighted per se, but like the overarching like Roberto love kind of thing going on between, or like boyfriend girlfriend really kind of thing going on between the two of them the whole time. And she was kind of his way of like understanding what the team was and like kind of, and therefore like a new viewer kind of perspective of like Roberto's the new viewer and she's going like, this is who the X-Men are, it's cool, we're cool, kind of thing. And like, so like she had her purposes, but in the grand scheme of things, it's Jubilee. So like,
I want to bring something up because we're coming short on time, and I don't think we have done enough shitting on Professor X at all. Like, we are so far from doing enough hating on Professor X in the show.
I have a great comment.
One thing I want to start. One thing I want to mention. One thing about Professor X that I cannot stand is his little fuckwad military uniform that he puts on where they go to do missions, and he's like, "Oh, let me put on my military fatigues."
Again, that's Pride of the X-Men.
He fucking with his little floaty wheelchair, with his little hoverboard wheelchair floats in of like, "Oh, Magnus, don't do that." Like, fuck you, buddy. You aren't doing shit. All you're doing is getting in the way and making things more complicated and making things more dangerous for the rest of the children that you've trained to fight for you.
Yeah, and then he spends the rest of the time trying to unfuck Magneto's brain that he was just inside of. You know what I mean? Like,
hate that guy. I hate that guy so fucking much. And I hate his little, like, what are they? They're not like, they're like off base, like military fatigues that I just hate that fucking dude.
Yeah.
Hate that guy.
So Professor X reverses what Magneto does and restarts the Prime Sentinels. And Bastion's talking to somebody, and Bastion's basically saying, like, Professor Xavier trying to realize his dream is making Bastion's dream come true. And Bastion says that Xavier's dream is as crippled as its dreamer. And I was like, oh my God.
That was a pretty rough comment.
Him crawling up Magneto's shirt front, costume front, and cape to like look him in the eyes and mind blast him. It was just like, was one really cool, but two, just like, holy fuck.
My favorite, I know we mentioned like a lot of great Magneto lines. My favorite Magneto line is, and he just goes like, Charles, just shut up. He just says like, Charles, shut the hell up. Like, I'm not listening
in
to
the little mind memory they're in, and like inside of Magneto's brain when he's just like, you know, they're going back through memories and he's trying to like, I guess again, unfuck the thing that he just fucked, you know, kind of thing, but also like, anyway, they're sitting there talking, and when Magneto kind of like wakes up at the end and kind of like remembers who he is, and he's like, wait a minute, you hurt me, you know, like kind of thing. And he's like, yes, but you hurt me too. So, you know, kind of thing. And I was just like, oh, come on, dude.
I do. So that flashback memory, I want to mention, because traditionally, you know, going back to like the beginning of times, mutants were kind of stand-ins for minority. You know, it was very much like, Black Americans or minorities are the mutant experience. Like that analog is like pretty constant. Their conversation when they ask,
civil rights movement is the mutant.
Yeah, but I mean, like specifically, like their conversation in the bar and like, are you a mutant? Like, well, I can read minds and I can bend metal. Felt very actually kind of like LGBT, sort of like a. Well, are you? You know, do you like boys? Like, well, I like boys, and you know, it was. And so I don't mean it like as a joke. I mean that seriously. It felt very much like an analog to kind of a coming out and like trying to, especially because it is like it's in a military guy bar that these two dudes are like, well, do you bat for my team or that? It felt very kind of LGBT
big time
metaphor, you know, rather than the traditional kind of like ethnic minority.
There was so many times where they were speaking about the other one where they would be like, he's my friend, and I'm just like, it's like, did you just say lover? It's fine, like we're all okay, you know, like it's okay, you know, kind of thing. Like I don't know what it's 2024. I know this takes place in 97, but like we all get it. But like there's
this flashback is apparently in like a post World War II. Like it looks like
they would like pause and say friend at the end, and I'm just like, stop saying friend. Like we you know, we get it.
Well, I mean, whatever. I mean, I'm not trying to imply that like they're actually gay in the continuity, but I just mean.
Oh no, yeah.
Right. I just mean the construct of that scene, you know, felt very much like a metaphor for sort of.
Oh, for sure.
You know, closeted, you know, LGBT members kind of coming out to each other. There's little Miss Sinister with her old face.
Well, it's morph, but yeah.
My last thing. So let me just, I want to just understand the humans, the Magneto protocols.
You want to understand the humans?
Yes.
We've been trying for years, Pat. We're not going to have an answer for you.
The idea was we're going to shoot missiles at asteroid M to destroy its gravity core.
Yes.
Therefore, it will hit the planet Earth, causing a global extinction event.
Yes.
Was that the plan?
That was the plan.
No.
Yeah.
Is that the plan?
Yeah.
That's what happened.
Not only that, you're missing a crucial part.
No, that's what happened.
They are going to shoot metal. You're missing the point.
It was the missiles.
Shooting metal missiles.
Patrick, you're missing the point. They're shooting metal missiles at asteroid M. to destroy its gravity.
To my understanding, it was destroy its gravity, it would float off into space.
No,
not destroy its gravity, it would.
They look in the Situation Room. They mentioned we don't know the effects, like it's dangerous. Like they mentioned that, like we don't know if it'll.
And Captain America's like, I think this is a bad idea.
Bastion even says, because it's while I think Cyclops is like pitching the whole let's all coexist, and Bastion's like, humans would rather kill themselves than to coexist with you. That's what's happening right now. Like they'd rather fucking commit suicide than to coexist with you.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong.
Yeah.
Anyways, I didn't pick up on that in the first watch. The second watch, I was like, oh, the humans, like,
their plan is fucking dumb.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
No wonder Captain America was like, let's give them a chance. Give the X-Men a chance. maybe they'll figure it out. Maybe not kill all of us, you know? Or a lot of us, at least.
But that was it. Anyways, I mean, that's the last episode, and then the X-Men win. Like, they win.
After that, Bastion uses his time powers to throw all the X-Men across different timelines. And so
is that what that is?
Yeah, because if you notice, he gets Cable's arm, which can time travel, and then when he's fighting Rogue, the way he's like teleporting, it's the same color scheme as when Asteroid M. So I think he's actually like time traveling when he's fighting Rogue. He's not teleporting.
Yeah. And at the end, we get little snippets of the party is once again split.
Well, so before that, though, I do really love the Jean and like because Cable's on Earth, and Jean and Cyclops kind of like mentally project and say goodbye to him, and I was like, "That's fucking adorable."
Yeah, that was a very sad scene. Yeah,
but when they do get,
and then they're split in different time zones, and some of them meet, what looks to be Apocalypse.
So I mentioned this before, so most of the team is in the past with Apocalypse, the first mutant or whatever. But I mentioned this before on another X-Men episode of ours, and I don't remember when.
Apocalypse also registers on the Snyder Zoo scale, by the way. Look at that. Mags isn't the only one.
Yeah, Apocalypse is. There's a comic where Jean and Scott not physically get transported to the future, but they're like souls embody two other different people in the future, and they basically raise Cable, and like it's a whole thing. But like this is literally this Mother Ascani kind of thing, and like Nathan being there, like that's straight from that book. And I'm like, interesting. So it's a fun story. So like I was like, that's really cool that because that was a big piece of this season, was like them giving up the child in the beginning, and then coming to terms with Jean not being his real mom technically or whatever, but also feels like she's his mom, and then so on and so on.
She's his real mom. Like, who's to say Clone isn't the real mom?
Well, I agree, but I mean, physically, that Jean didn't give birth to him, is what I'm trying to say. But like, yes, genetically.
Okay, so you're of the J.K. Rowling view of you have to be the woman to experience being a woman. You can't just say you're a woman.
No, I'm saying of the two cloned human beings, one of them had a child and the other one didn't.
Okay, so you're a J.K. Rowling clone
there was a cute scene that I
don't even know what you're referencing.
Well, J.K. Rowling is a notorious TERF who negates trans rights.
She's obsessed with trans people. It's insane.
And you're equating me to that? Thanks.
I'm equating you to that. You are to clones what J.K. Rowling is to trans people, is what I'm saying.
God damn. Okay.
It's pretty rough, man. It's pretty rough.
Really taking it to a different level.
Yeah.
But I said it's quite the zigzag line you get.
Yeah. It's like, Jesus Christ. Where are you fucking coming from?
There was a cute thing, though. Cable is very adamant that Jean is not his mom. And then at the end, when
very
Jean
much is
the Phoenix, Cable says, "Oh, you must not know too much about my mom," and he refers to Jean as his mom. And I thought that was a very subtle, cute character.
And then also again, them saying goodbye to him, like she's reaching across the table and holding his hand, and like she's very much his mother. Like in the same sense that her and Madeline she's like, Madeline fights with me today. That line that you were saying, Patty. Like, it's almost as like. Now that Madeline is dead from Genosha, like she feels comfortable being like, well, that was my life too. Like it was just two different bodies.
Yeah. And in Cable's not defense, it's easy to say that after she saves your wife, you asshole, your life, like she saves his life, and then he's like, oh, that's my mom. Like, thanks, dick. How about the other 24 hours in the day? How about that? You know.
So this is Mother Ascani. If you guys can see the little red lines on her face, that's Rachel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I'm not sure how that all adds up, but yes, it's Rachel.
Well, I'm sure in season 2 they'll figure it out.
I don't know. Well, that's another thing. So classically, the old cartoon show did the same thing. Sometimes what was in the comic isn't necessarily how it plays out in the cartoon.
True.
When I was watching that show as a child, I would always find myself going like, okay, they're about to do Executioner's Song with Cable and Strife, but is it going to be the same way as it was in the comic? Because I was always more like, to me, as watching that show, I had read those books. So I was already like, well, how are they going to present this? Or like, how are they going to change the story in a good way? Or like, I was never like, it has to be the same or whatever. But it was just one of those things where I was like, oh, interesting. They're starting the Dark Phoenix saga. I wonder how this will play out. And will it be the same in the show as it was in the comics kind of thing. But yeah, that's this. So this whole storyline, I'm intrigued about. I don't know how much I feel or care about the Apocalypse section of this next season that we're gonna get. But
we'll have to see how Bo DeMeo, if he's back, or his replacement handle it.
I wonder how that will work. Yeah, interesting.
Okay. Also, we don't have to do the whole. Well, it's technically a different episode. So do you all have feedback in your left ear, bud? Or is it just me? Does this pass the Bechdel test?
Oh, your heart's on in and out.
The Bechdel test. Does this pass the Bechdel test? The answer is probably no. But this part 2 also passes because there's more Jean Storm times. It passes.
Passes.
Although I think it's pretty much only with Jean Storm, but it passes.
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
Depending how you identify Morph, maybe.
Rogue's a tomboy. She just hangs out with the boys, you know?
Rogue does not talk to women very much. No. I gotta say, she does not talk to other women.
She's a woman on an island by herself, surrounded by men.
She only talks to men who are interested in her. Is pretty much the only people she talks to.
Yeah. Like how, like her interactions with just like, I don't know, Cyclops, like, you know, or Wolverine, even like almost
non-existent. She basically only interacts with women.
She's like, Cyclops is married. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, she only interacts. With men interested in her is basically the only people she interacts with. But you know, she's an attractive woman, and sometimes that's just life. Is like you have to deal with the fact that you're in the patriarchy. You're an object of desire, and you have to try to deal with that in the best way you can.
Maybe she just doesn't like other ladies. You know, that's fine.
Could be. Also, it's true. Maybe she doesn't like other women. Like J.K. Rowling doesn't like trans women. Anyway,
we keep talking about
J.K. Rowling's terrible. And just whatever. I don't know why you're the one who keeps espousing viewpoints similar.
Oh God damn it! You're such a horrible human.
Not me. All right, do we recommend it? I'll just start. I do recommend it. I mean, I know I gave it a B, which sounds lukewarm, but like a B is still pretty. I enjoyed it. It's pretty good.
High.
I recommend it.
That's not lukewarm.
And I definitely recommend it. It's a fun cartoon show. If you're interested at all in the X-Men, watch it.
Yeah, 100% agree. Loved it. A lot of the action sequences were fantastic. We did get really plot heavy with our discussion, which is normally how our discussions go. When there's action, we just go, the action was cool, moving on. But there was a lot of really cool usages of powers and how they fought within certain situations. And a lot of the characters got really fun highlights throughout. Yeah, Storm lackluster in the finale, I guess, but like, she had her own episode, basically. So, you know, there's a lot. I thought they handled the team aspect of the show very well. Like, it highlighted a lot of the characters for different reasons. And the ones that they did put off to the side, like Beast and Wolverine and a little bit of Morph, I was like, okay with, because I didn't want too much of them.
Yeah.
So, I was just like, okay, this is great. In terms of my rankings of X-Men, Cyclops and Nightcrawler were fucking kicking ass, and so I'm happy, you know. But yeah, I would definitely recommend. It's a great show. Watch it. Hopefully, there's many more seasons to come, and we don't have to wait too long for them. But definitely recommend from me.
I also 100% recommend. I really, really enjoyed it. It exceeded all expectations that I had. It's very good.
I think that's the key. Like I was expecting it to be better or on par with the old show, and I feel like it still exceeded my expectations.
Yeah.
They kept to that old school X-Men kind of feel of the animation, but it was updated in enough ways that I felt like it was still modern, even though it felt like it was from the 90s. It was fun.
All right. Well, good journey, Couch.
That's been comics. I think we won comics, / cartoons of comics.
Everybody take care.
All right.
Bye.